Not too many events. You get a state representative who looks like Jack Sparrow, a state senator who looks like an early 1900s robber baron, a mayor who looks like a disco dynamo, and a TV anchor MC who looks like an 18th century squire. But apparently when you do get all that, you break all kinds of fundraising goals. What an honor it was today to MC and model in what I called my 18th century participation trophy husband costume. My co-anchor Anna Marie Schutt was also able to walk the runway at Rockford University's Maddox Theater for the Costume Style Show, spotlighting the incredible designs of the award-winning Jeff Hendry, who was a costume designer and teacher at Rockford University for 41 years. Rockford Mayor Tom McNamara was among the models, as were many students and other performers connected to Rockford University. The goal of the event was to raise $5,000, but they far exceeded that by bringing in $7,000. And what does all that $7,000 raised go to? Well, it's to send more than a dozen Rockford University students to Edinburgh, Scotland for the Festival Fringe in August. Only 8 schools across the country have been invited to attend the largest performing arts festival in the world, which spans 25 days and features nearly 60,000 performers.
We will be taking a show called The Theory of Relativity, which is a song cycle, and we'll perform that 4 or 5 times over there. We'll be gone for about 2 weeks, for about 13 days, and get the opportunity to watch all kinds of performances, but perform ourselves as well. It's an amazing experience.